It's a season of independence, Nigeria at 63, and we hope the anniversary gets to mark good times and good tidings regarding the world of business. It's Business 360, and my name is Blyden Okem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at the key features of the world of business, beginning with global index and global analysis in the world of business for this week. Expected data to be released this week. It should be a very busy week in the US, with jobs report and speeches by several Fed officials taking center stage, followed by the JOLTS job openings, services and manufacturing PMIs, foreign trade data and factory orders. Investors will also be closely monitoring inflation rates for Indonesia, Switzerland, Turkey, South Korea and the Philippines, as well as interest rate decisions in Australia, New Zealand and India. Elsewhere, fresh manufacturing PMI and its data is expected to be released for Spain, Switzerland, Italy, Canada, India, Russia, and South Korea, while services PMIs will be reported for Spain, Italy, and Brazil. Also, this week, in the spotlight will be the foreign trade data for Australia, Brazil, Germany, and Canada. And finally, market participants will be keeping a close eye on unemployment rates for Canada and the Euro area, the tank and large manufacturers index for Japan, and factory orders for Germany. Still looking at businesses around the world, former United States President Donald Trump has said he will attend courts in New York for the start of a civil trial in a case that has already resulted in a judge ruling that he committed fraud in his business dealing. The trial is due to get underway today, threatening Trump's business empire as he campaigns for the White House with 4 criminal cases looming. The 77-year-old lashed out at New York Attorney General Letitia James, who is suing him, and Judge Arthur Agoran, who is presiding over the non-jury trial, and ruled last week that Trump and his sons Eric and Don Jr. had been inflating the value of the Trump's organization's property and financial assets for years. That's it from the European scene. Let's talk about African businesses and the standings in Africa. A greater investment in skill development in solar market technology, according to a United Nations organization, might help create jobs in nations such as Kenya through collaboration with multinational businesses that control the sector. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development recommends skill developments to boost job opportunities in Kenya's solar industry. Kenya's Energy Local Content Regulation 2014 aimed to enhance indigenous solar manufacturing and employment. Now in Nigeria, the 3 tiers of government and commercial banks gained about 2.21 trillion naira from foreign exchange revaluation revenue. The development comes from analyzing the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee communique for June to August and the first half of 2023 statement from 5 top-tier Nigerian banks. Accordingly, the Federation aimed 834.36 billion naira as exchange difference between June and August 2023, as the 5 top-tier Nigerian banks, including First Bank, UBA, Zenith Bank, Access, and Guarantee Trust Bank, aimed 1.38 trillion naira from forex revaluation gains. However, some top manufacturers suffered foreign exchange losses of 495.36 billion naira, according to their financial statement in the first half of 2023. Still in Nigeria, Boa Cement PLC has announced a significant reduction in the price of cement from 5,500 naira to 3,500 naira per bag, effective October 2nd, 2023. Price reduction is expected to boost construction activity and economic growth in Africa. The move is a positive development for Nigerians struggling with high inflation and weak currency, as the company stated, that it was able to reduce prices due to its increased production capacity and its commitment to making cement more affordable for Nigerians. And it's quite interesting for builders and those intending to build houses in Nigerian construction work. Now to the Ministry of Solid Minerals. The Ministry of Solid Minerals Development of the federal government of Nigeria has issued a warning to international entities that support to banditry in order to carry out unlawful mining in the nation. It's a warning from the ministry. The Ministry of Solid Minerals Development is to form a multi-agency task force against illegal mining. A deadline was set for legal miners to change their status and comply with regulations in the country. Now to the speech from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a 6-month waiver of a 7.5% value-added tax on automotive gas oil, popularly known as diesel. Mohammed Idris, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, disclosed this on Sunday after a meeting between the federal government and the organized labor. The development comes amid the rising cost of diesel, which jumped from 600 naira per litre in early June to 1,000 naira per litre. Quite concerning regarding the price of diesel. Also, President Bola Tinubu has announced that the introduction of new compressed natural gas CNG conversion kits will soon enhance affordability in the public transportation sector. President Tinubu made this known in his nationwide broadcast on Sunday, October 1st, 2023, on the occasion of Nigeria's 63rd independence anniversary. The president had previously revealed that the projected cost of compressed natural gas CNG is expected to be approximately 250 naira per litre. Nigeria is targeting over 11,500 new CNG-enabled vehicles and 55,000 CNG conversion kits for existing PMS-dependent vehicles. That is it from Nigeria. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at economic statistics all around the world. Don't go anywhere.
It seems like every year there's a real threat of a
government shutdown.
Lawmakers racing to reach a deal to avoid a government shutdown.
And 2023 is no different.
Saturday, 11:59 p.m. deadline to avoid a government shutdown.
Here's why the government is constantly on the verge of a shutdown. For starters, the U.S. is the only country that even can shut down. Everywhere else, if a government agency doesn't have a budget for the new fiscal year, they just use last year's and keep working. But because 150 years ago, a bunch of U.S. agencies would blow through their entire budget, or appropriations, in a few months, Congress passed the Anti-Deficiency Act, saying it wasn't lawful to spend any sum in excess of appropriations made by Congress for that fiscal year. Basically, if Congress doesn't pass a new funding bill every year, agencies can't spend a dime and shut down. But why that keeps threatening to happen a century later comes down to Congress. For one, these spending bills are kind of their big thing.
The one thing that Congress has to do with the president is write the bills to keep the government open and working. There are a lot of measures that should be done or could be done, but this is the be-all, end-all of must pass.
So these spending
Welcome back. It is Business 360 and my name is Blyden Okem. Now looking at global economy and economic statistics all around the world and the indices in it, the practicality of global economic outlook after going through the Wall Street Journal and why government shutdown are a constant threat. Let's talk about U.S. Treasury yields rise. The yield rise on the U.S. 10-year Treasury notes climbed to 4.61% to kick off October, holding close to 16-year high as traders refocus on the Fed's next steps and await fresh data. Meanwhile, US lawmakers managed to avert a government shutdown by signing a temporary bill that keeps the government open for the next 45 more days. And now let's move to Asia, looking at Japan's third quarter business mood as its highest in 5 quarters. The Bank of Japan's index for big manufacturers' sentiment climbed to 9 in the third quarter of 2023 from 5 in the second quarter, pointing to the highest print since the second quarter of 2022. Meanwhile, confidence among big non-manufacturers jumped to a level unseen since 1991 of 27 index level, improving for the 6th straight quarter. Simultaneously, large firms plan to increase capital expenditure by 13.6% in the current FY, in line with forecasts. Still in Asia, let's look at inflation in Indonesia as the rate falls to 19-month low. Indonesia's annual inflation rate dropped to 2.28% in September 2023 from 3.27% in the previous month, compared to market forecasts of 2.2% rise. It was the lowest inflation rate since February 2022 due to a slowdown in the prices of housing. In August, transport, clothing, recreation, sports and culture, furnishing, accommodation and restaurant, as well as health. Meanwhile, food inflation accelerated while that of education was little changed, and a rebound was seen in information and financials. Still in Indonesia, the inflation rate remained within the central bank's targets of 2 to 4% for the 5th consecutive month. Let's quickly move to the charts indicating Indonesia's inflation rates. The charts this morning. According to statistical reports coming in from Indonesia Statistics, as of October 2022, inflation in Indonesia was at 5.71%, inflation indicating increase in prices and a weakness in the currency of the country. But inflation level began to go down beginning this year, hitting 5.28% in January, before moving slightly upward to 5.47% in February and dropping consistently to 4.33% by April 2023 and dropping to 3.08% in July 2023 and currently 2.28%, the highest drop in about 1 year. Now let's look at annual inflation rate in Kenya. The annual inflation rate in Kenya unexpectedly rose to 6.8% in September 2023, the first increase since May 2023 from 6.4% while 6.7% in the prior month, but still within the central bank's preferred range of 2.5% to 7.5%. Analysts had expected inflation at 6.35%. The food index, representing a third of the inflation basket, rose 8.2% in September, up from August 7.5%. Additionally, prices advanced for some other CPI items, which is the consumer price index items, such as housing and utilities, recreation and culture, transportation, restaurants and hotels, transportation and alcoholic beverages, as well as tobacco. On a monthly basis, consumer prices rose by 1% after a 0.1% decrease in the prior month. Let's also look at the charts indicating Kenya's inflation rates. The charts this morning. According to statistical data from Kenya, inflation rates in Kenya dropped further downward from 9.6% as of October 2022 and dropping slowly by the beginning of the year, January 2023. Inflation standing was at 9% in Kenya. It went slightly upward amid some taxation regarding PMS in the country, but dropped further to 7.9% in April 2023 and 7.3% in July 2023, before getting to 6.7% and 6.8%. It's a slowdown in the cost and the rise in the cost of commodities in the country, Kenya, and also talking about a strengthening effect to the currency. And now let's look at commodity markets. The markets now. Oil edges higher on risk on mood. WTI crude futures rose above $91 per barrel this morning after falling for 2 straight sessions, as risk sentiments improved after U.S. legislators were able to strike a last-minute deal to avoid a government shutdown. It's been an evolving conversation regarding the shutdown in the US. Investors were also focused on a tight global supply outlook ahead of an OPEC Plus meeting on Wednesday. Still, analysts expect no policy changes from OPEC Plus this week as tighter supplies and rising demand kept the market supported. Data released over the weekend showed that Chinese manufacturing activity turned expansionary in September, boosting the demand outlook in the world's top crude importer. Meanwhile, the US oil benchmark finished September and the third quarter up about 9% and 29% respectively, supported mainly by extended supply cuts from Saudi Arabia and Russia. That's it from the oil market. Let's move to the energy market this morning and see what the prices are for the energy commodities, talking about US crude and Nigeria's price benchmark, Brent crude, this morning. The energy market has shown some positivity but with low volatility and a slight negativity for natural gas, beginning with crude oil, the US crude, which is the West Texas Intermediate crude. US crude price stands at $91.78 per barrel, gaining 0.998 points, a 1.1% appreciation. For Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, the current price is at $92.91 per barrel, upward by 0.713 points, a 0.77% appreciation. Natural gas, little here, little there, not gaining this morning, a slight decline, negative 0.2% drop. For gasoline, little here, little there, same, but gaining 1.16% appreciation, and current price for gasoline is $2.42 per gallon. Heating oil, similar story, and coal gaining 0.35 points. Let's look at other markets and what the prices are this morning for these commodities, looking at the metal market, beginning with gold. Gold price is downward by 18.25 points, a negative 0.72% decline, $1,835 $6 cents per ounce. For silver, the price is slightly downward this morning by 0.48 points, a negative 2.2% decline at $21 $67 per ounce. While copper price is slightly downward, a negative 0.66% decline. As steel is gaining this morning, whopping 18 points, a 0.49% appreciation. Iron ore and lithium, no significant difference in the morning market. And further upward, let's look at other commodities. What the price for industrial commodities would be this morning. Bitumen gaining 42 points this morning at 3,973 Chinese yuan per ton is the price of bitumen, an upward direction of 1.07% appreciation. Cobalt has no significant difference for a fifth week consecutively now, the opener of this week, the beginning of it. For late price, late is downward by 20 points, a negative 0.9% decline, $2,200 per ton. And the price of tin downward by 1,380 points, the heaviest fall this morning in the commodity market, a negative 5.45% decline, and zinc price gaining 8.5 points. And quickly, let's look at the agricultural market and what the antecedents would be this morning for these commodities. Soybeans downward by 8.75 points, a negative 0.69% decline, $1,266 at 25 cents per bushel. The price of wheat gaining 4 points this morning, $545 54 cents per bushel. Lumber slightly downward by 5.5 points. Palm oil dropping 63 points this morning, a negative 1.67% decline. And the price of palm oil is 3,704 Malaysian ringgit per ton. Now let's look at the foreign exchange market, what the currency pairs are doing this morning, beginning with Japanese yen as the yen hits fresh 11-month lows. The Japanese yen depreciated towards 150 per dollar, hitting fresh 11-month lows and prompting Finance Minister Shunichi Suzuki to warn that he was watching currency moves cautiously as fears of a government intervention grew. Meanwhile, the currency weakened sharply this year as the Bank of Japan remained committed to ultra-easy monetary policy, even as other major central banks embarked on an aggressive tightening campaign. While the Bank of Japan also dashed hopes that it would hint at an end of its negative interest rate policy when it stuck to dovish messaging at its September meeting, and moreover, A summary of opinion from a Bank of Japan's last meeting showed policymakers discussed various factors that must be taken into account when exiting ultra-loose policy. And meanwhile, data showed that sentiment among Japanese companies improved markedly in the third quarter, raising optimism about the economic outlook. Now quickly, let's move to the market and see what the prices for these currency pairs would be, beginning with the euro against the US dollar, and afterward we'll look at Naira's perspective in the market. The euro against the US dollar this morning. The exchange rate had dropped from last week's closure of 1.06 point mark and now to 1.053 point mark. A slight decline in the morning market, a negative 0.29% drop for the euro against the dollar being stronger than the euro. A similar story for the pound against the US dollar this morning. The dollar seemed to be in a good position comparatively to other measures. The pound against the US dollar, current price 1.216 point mark, a slight decline for the pound, while facing the dollar, a negative 0.27% decline. Similar story for the Aussie, and the US dollar gaining slightly against the Japanese yen at 149.64 points. It's the price level. Now quickly, let's look at Naira's perspective in the market, what the price of the currency pair, the Naira, would be against the majors, beginning with the US dollar. 769 Naira equals 1 US dollar at the international exchange window. At the opening of today's market, a gain of 1.05 points, a 0.14% appreciation in favor of the US dollar. For the euro against the Naira, at the closure of last week's market, it was an upward movement for the euro by 2.75 points over the Naira, a 0.34% appreciation, 823 Naira equaling 1 euro. For the pound against the Naira, 952 Naira equaled 1 pound, a gain of 4.35 points in favor of the pound over the Naira, 0.46% appreciation. Now quickly, let's move to the black market, the power market, and see what the prices are in the power market. It's been that of concern since the Naira broke the dock, getting to the 1,000 mark against the dollar. And current price at the buying rate is 1,006 Naira equaling $1 in the power market, and selling rate 998 Naira to the dollar at the power market. The pounds to Naira indicates 1,270 Naira equaling 1 pound by buying rate, and selling rate 1,257 Naira to a pound. The euro to Naira indicates a price level of 1,065 Naira equaling 1 euro at the buying rate, and selling rate 1,045 Naira to the euro at the selling rate. Now quickly, let's look at the digital commodities, digital coin, and see what the prices for cryptocurrencies are this morning, beginning with Bitcoin, the father of all cryptos. 28,305 US dollar equals 1 Bitcoin, upward by 1,190 points this morning for Bitcoin, a 4.39% appreciation in the early morning market. For Ether, Ether has gained 58.3 points, 1,782 US dollar is the price of Ether, and Binance up by 2.4 points, Cardano, Solana, Ripple, a little here, a little there. Let's talk about global stocks immediately, as we're set to draw the curtain in today's edition of Business 360. US futures jumped as government shutdown was averted. The US stock futures jumped on Monday today after the US legislators were able to come to a temporary agreement that would keep the government open for 45 more days, an extended period that lawmakers can use to finalize funding legislation. The Dow and S&P 500 futures gained about 0.4%, while the Nasdaq 100 futures rallied 0.6%. Meanwhile, September marked the worst monthly performance of the year for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite, losing 4.9% and 5.8% respectively. And here, we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360, looking at a conclusion and the event unfolding in the US, as well as Nigerian and African stocks level. And my name is Bladden Kim. Thank you for being a part of it, and thank you for watching.